and welcome to the Big 12 Recap Show. I'm your host Shane Falco along with my co-host Don King. We're going to go ahead and break into some of the scores, rankings, and players of the week, and also talk about the upcoming game of the week that we feel is the game of the week in this conference. What do you got for the score so far there, Don?
Thanks, Falco. We had an exciting games in the Big 12 this week. We had the force and body count. The force pulled it out with an interesting call on an extra point that I'm sure body count would like back, 14-13. We had the Zebras and wasted talent. Zebras really just crushed wasted talent, 18-16. I think that the game was not as close as the score says. Franchise murdered the Mad Dogs 26-6. That best D-line in football that I was talking about had 7 sacks. Second and none over Empire, 19-12. I still don't think Josh will get the ball the rest of the season. He's a little depressed over there. In DX, 26-7 over the Scrappers. Scrappers were missing their starting QB, but to be honest, I don't think that they could have scored enough points to keep up with DX. That would have just gave them more possessions and even more points. What do you have for the rankings for the
Thanks, Don. Well, for the rankings in the Big 12, I would, of course, got the Force at number 1. I mean, their defense has just proven to be very tough, knocking off a very competitive and hungry body count team. Number 2, I got to go with the Franchise, making some noise, beat up on the Mad Dogs. Their defense was all that was advertised, and so far they've shown that they can score enough points to win. Let's see if it keeps up. Number 3, I'm going to surprise and go with the Zebras. I think their gimmicky offense was enough, really got wasted talent frustrated, and they made some very athletic plays. Number 4, I got to go with body count. Yes, they lost. They were very competitive. Came down to overtime against a very good Force team, and the Forkies are something to deal with. So the body count really made a good showing. Although a certain D lineman for body count sure looked a little slow of foot. Next, I'm going to go with the Scrappers. They played up. Obviously, it's very outmatched athletically against DX, but it's a very tough matchup. And I think the Scrappers are still going to bounce back and make some very competitive games. Wasted talent will be next. Very hard time dealing with the Zebras. They have a lineman that loves everybody, but unfortunately that wasn't enough. Love just didn't get it done this week. Last, I got to go with Empire. Played down in the Big 10. Completely misused one of the best receivers in the league and just completely looked lost out there. New second and none team coming up from the Big 10, knocking off Empire. The guys put them last so far. That's what I got for the rankings. Why don't we discuss some of the players that we have that stood out this week? What do you think, Don?
Thanks, Falco. We only had a couple guys that mentioned in the Big 12 this week. Penny Crooks, 11 of 14, 4 TDs, 235 yards passing, 60 yards rushing. I mean, the only thing this guy didn't do for the team was cook breakfast or dinner. Then we also had Kevin Fain. You know, I was talking about those 7 sacks that they had. Well, Kevin Fain had 3 of them and also 5 flag pulls. And I'm also looking to find the name of that offensive lineman from the Force who pancaked our good buddy Dwayne. He threw syrup all over him, by the way. I think he's still taking a shower to wash that stuff off. What do you think of the players?
Well, I definitely have to agree. I mean, by far the 2 guys from the Franchise put on the best performances of the week. That pancake was just horrendous. Obviously, he must have taken all Dwayne's speed out. Because if you saw him trying to chase down Dent in overtime against the Force, he looked like he definitely was 2 or 3 steps slower. A pretty embarrassing display, if you might ask me. Obviously, I mean, when you threw 11 of 14 for 4 tubs, and any conference is very impressive, and to do it on the Big 12 level is very impressive indeed.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. What do you have for the game of the week?
Game of the week in this conference, I'm actually going to be a little surprised. I'm going to go with the Zebras versus the Force. I think we're going to have a classic matchup of offense versus defense. The Zebras aren't known to put up a ton of points, but they do have some gimmicks and they do have some different ideas that they like to run. And I like to see how that impressive Force defense matches up against that offense.
You know, I can't agree. Styles do make fights, and this should be a pretty good one. I'm going to think that the Force are going to win this game, but I mean, you never know. If the Zebras can successfully spread them out, they'd actually have a shot at this one.
And obviously, you can't take anybody lightly. And that's why it's a showdown at high noon. Can't think of a better setting for a game such as this. That's going to wrap it up for us here on the Big 12 Recap Show. Thanks for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you out there this week and be back next week with new highlights and new ideas.